Hi everyone, I'm Nadia, and in today's video my mom is making a textured resin beach wall art piece. She's starting off by mixing in her resin, and in this video she's using craft resin, which is a 1-to-1 ratio by volume, so she mixes in equal parts of the A and B. She'll be using a wooden canvas, and she'll actually be using the back side of the canvas, which works perfectly because it has those lifted edges. She pours her parts A and B into a larger cup and mixes together well for 3 to 5 minutes. You want to mix until you no longer see any streaks in your resin. Then she separates it into smaller cups where she'll be adding in her pigments. The first pigment she's using is J. Diction's transparent pigment in the shade green. She adds in 3 drops into her cup of resin and mixes that in. Her next pigment is an alcohol ink in the shade Sky Blue. In this cup she adds in 4 drops and stirs well. Now she'll be mixing in her sand, and she's using some craft sand. She separates some into a smaller cup and then pours resin into that same cup to mix together. I'll have all the products that you see in this video listed in my description, so if you want to give this tutorial a try, be sure to check that out. Then she pours her sand mixed in with the resin onto her canvas. She uses her mixing stick to help spread out the sand and make sure that it's covering the whole area. Now she's taking a collection of some pebbles and placing them into the canvas as well. And she pours a little more clear resin near the bottom. This area will remain clear as the shoreline. Then she takes her green pigmented resin and pours it near the center of the canvas, followed by her sky blue pigmented resin near the top of the canvas. She adds a few more drops of the sky blue alcohol ink into a cup of resin to make this area just a little darker. And she does the same to make the center area a little more pigmented. Then she uses a mixing stick to blend everything together. She decided to carefully remove this one little pebble. She uses an alcohol wipe to clean up the edges. Then she goes in with a torch gun to pop any air bubbles, and whenever you're using a torch gun, you want to pay extra attention to move it very quickly so that you don't burn your resin. Now she'll be covering her piece to protect it from any dust particles or fibers while it's hardening. She came back around 3 hours later and is taking the resin that remained in her cup, which is now very tacky, and with a mixing stick she's applying it onto her canvas. Because the resin has already began its hardening process, this will help to keep the texture in the resin. So I did mention she waited about 3 hours from her original pour. However, this was filmed in the summer and it was in a hot room, which can cause the resin to heat up even faster. The amount of time that you'll need to wait will depend on your resin's work time and the temperature of the room that you're working in. She's also taking some of the leftover pigmented resin that was in the cups and applying that onto the canvas as well. She's applying it in areas, and this part doesn't need to be perfect. There are a few things that she would have done differently that we wanted to share with you guys. Instead of waiting a certain period of time and then getting to work with the resin, she would have checked on the resin every half hour to make sure that it was of optimal consistency. She first tried here to create texture within the resin by using her mixing stick and pushing it into the resin. However, this didn't fully work out. She would have used a silicone cover over her finger to shape the resin. The resin needs to be thickened enough so that it doesn't level after you're manipulating it, but also not so hard so that it needs a lot of muscle to manipulate. So it really needs to be the perfect consistency, which is why checking in on the resin periodically could make this process a little easier. Things like your resin type, the depth of your piece, and your room temperature will all affect the time that it takes to get to that point. Here the resin was past that point and was requiring a lot of muscle to indent. She decided instead to drag her mixing stick through the resin to create wave-like texture. And she repeated this several times. Because of these factors mentioned previously, my mom is not very satisfied with this piece and actually considers it a fail. However, I still think that it came out very beautiful. She allows this layer to fully harden, and here's the final product. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Follow me on my Instagram, Summer Girl Designs, and my mom's Instagram, Wild Heart Resin Art.